Come on, that is such a disingenuous framing, and I got so pissed off at Jeremy Boring for framing it that way, and you're doubling down.
My point is, you're pretending that Crowder would sign this.
Like, that's a deflection. It's not
a deflection. It's not a deflection. I'll explain why.
That's true. That's the accusation that Steven Crowder has made. That's the accusation everybody cares about. That's the accusation that's going to lose Daily Wire half of their subscribers.
You know there are conditions in which you might need those receipts.
Yes, but you look, it's all theater. It's all theater once you know you are recording the person Adam, and they don't know they're being recorded.
Hello, Shad.
Hey, guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
What's up?
Today?
Hey, thanks for having me on board. Hear you guys talking about a subject that I am very interested in.
Nice. Thanks for jumping in. Yeah. Have you heard Sean talking a whole lot of smack here?
Have you heard me going after Crowder personally?
Yeah.
I saw you guys talking about it. I clicked on it. And the first 2 points I hear Sean make, I have to say I totally disagree with, which is why I was commenting.
Good.
Well, I didn't catch anything else you said, Sean. I might agree on everything else, but those two first points, and this is, I'm actually a bit annoyed how much it turns out looks like I'm batting for Crowder, because I more recently he's been pissing me off, and I hadn't been watching his content, and it's not like I'm trying to do this because I'm a Crowder simp in any way. It's just that, honestly, if separating my life for either platform, when I look at that contract and the back and forth, I'm on Crowder's side nearly 90% with a lot of this, even though, and I don't like that, even though I don't like what's going, because the harm the Daily Wire that this could be causing the Daily Wire, and I like the good stuff the Daily Wire is doing and everything, but just to the point like Sean was making about how it should be okay for Crowder to censor himself or be okay with the penalizations in the contract because he's already censoring himself on YouTube. The reason why I think that argument is just completely flawed is that you can't predict what YouTube is going to penalize you for. Even if you try and censor everything that you say, or actually, the only way you could possibly do this is if you never say anything that could potentially offend the left, which is just bonkers, because you could get banned off of YouTube for stuff that is not in their terms of service, as what has happened for Crowder multiple times. And so those provisions that's going to penalize them for those things are just complete dog crap. I would never accept anything like that in a million years.
Hold on. So first of all, I literally just said that, where like I understand why Crowder doesn't want to have that in there, because they've actually, in the Carlos Maza thing, changed the rules after the fact, announced Crowder didn't violate the terms of service, then changed the rules and then enforced them after the fact. But my issue is right now Crowder, and this is why it's actually not that bad of a deal, bears 100% of the risk of being banned off of YouTube. His primary platform is YouTube, 6 million subscribers. If he signs with the Daily Wire, then he only bears 20% of that risk. That's why I'm saying it's actually not that crazy.
Oh, I completely disagree, because if Crowder gets banned off of YouTube, he still has vast amounts of monetization opportunity from his Mug Club subscription, from his merchandising, from if he does do sponsorships and everything like that. In actual fact, the primary source of revenue is from the Mug Club subscriptions, right? And so he could get banned off of YouTube and still maintain most of his monetization potential, but they're going to dox him 20%. That's $10 million. That's insane.
No, 20% is not. Oh, over the 5 years. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah.
So first of all, like his we don't know his Mug Club numbers, number one. Number two, the reason we can get an estimate of his Mug Club numbers is because they're obviously going to be a certain percentage of his free viewers, which are on YouTube. So losing YouTube loses him the ability to funnel people over to Mug Club.
See, YouTube is the only one I think you might be I still disagree about the thing, right? But they're going to ban here. They're going to dox him 10%, which is $5 million for being banned off of Facebook. And honestly, Crowder's not going to lose a whole heap of money if he gets banned off of Facebook, because if you're going to get monetization stuff, it's going to be where you're going to get most of the views. And the thing is why I don't fully agree with the YouTube thing is that he can get insane views on Rumble as well, where he's proven that by his election night live stream. And so even if he does get banned off of YouTube, it doesn't mean he's not bringing in any money. In actual fact, under the contract, Daily Wire would be getting crazy amounts of money still, even if he does get banned off of Facebook or even YouTube, right? But True. They have the gall to dox him $10 million. Well, even though they could be still making insane amounts of money off of his platform, and they're not going to share anything on top of the 50 million that they go over and above, so they're willing to throw all this risk on him, right? All this, like that, bearing all that, and they're not going to share any of the additional profits in a percentage rate over and above the 50 million that they're promising.
Yeah, I don't. There's no incentives. There's negative incentives in the contract. This again, I don't disagree with you on this. What I am saying is that I can understand why the Daily Wire has that in there, and if I'm Crowder, I would negotiate to get that that penalty reduced. But it's just reality that Crowder is valuable because he's on YouTube, and if he loses his YouTube, you could talk about he had people watching him on Rumble. That's because like he's like, oh no, I got a strike on YouTube. Go subscribe to me over at Rumble. So like I understand them trying to mitigate their risk, but obviously they would negotiate this down to a certain point. But again, Crowder bears 100% of the risk right now today for being banned off of YouTube.
There are so many much more reasonable ways you could go about proposing such a thing like that. And the very fact, like, I don't like the negotiating standpoint. Oh, look, I admit and agree that a certain level of negotiation is fine. But when they come in with such like predatory terms like this, right, which are just insane, that reveals just incredible bad faith. That if I ever got a contract like this, my response honestly would be the same as Crowder. I'd throw out the window. This is not good enough to even wipe my ass with. And it reveals that
that's not Crowder's response. Crowder counter-offered. Like, let's be clear about that.
Yeah. Well, my response probably would be worse then, right? Because by them even proposing those things, it reveals that they would have been happy to accept them if Crowder was naive enough to not negotiate, and that's awful. That's a terrible.
I don't think that's what's happening. I think I think the psychology at play here. I mean, I guess they could assume that they'd catch some people like that, but I don't think they think they're going to catch Crowder in some sort of like trick here. I think it's especially with big people, they think, well, they're going to assume whatever our first offer is going to be a low ball. So if we give them like a good offer right up front, no matter what it is, they're going to ask for more. So we might as well start low.
Right.
Yeah, but even if they ask for more, if it's a good, genuine offer, you say, no, what we offered you was fair. We're not moving from it, right?
Yeah, but then the person will say, no, I'm not going to take this.
No, but
they're assuming that you're lowballing them and you're not negotiating with them.
But not if they confirm and like, because if you could show, no, this is direct fair market value and everything, then you could just hold the line and say, no, this genuinely is a fair offer. The fact that they knew that they would be moving from this first offer, that's an acknowledgement on their behalf that it was a complete dog crap offer. Well, no, but it's more aside the point because I think, Sitch, you even kind of admitted that perhaps they get away with this for some people, but they wouldn't get away with Crowder. That's my issue right there. Even though Crowder would never accept these terms, the fact that they would be willing to accept these terms if they could get away with them is holy crap.
Yeah,
that's shady.
But they know, like, first of all, they sent the offer through his agent. Like, they know it's going to be a back and forth and a negotiation. And apparently this is what the Daily Wire likes to do. This is what we find out in Lauren Chen's video is they offer her money. She's like, oh, this offer's too low. And she doesn't counter. And then Jeremy Boring calls her personally. He's like, hey, like you're supposed to negotiate. Like that's like the fun part for them. And I understand Crowder might not have the the stomach for the negotiations, but like I do believe the Daily Wire would have went up to around 75 million. Now, whether or not that's value enough for Crowder or not, we don't know because we don't know how many Crowder doesn't know how many Mug Club subscribers he has. It's just a fact. He doesn't know. And we don't know how many of those people are already subscribed to the Daily Wire.
Mm-hmm. Like with the negotiation strategy, I think, the fact that Jeremy calls Lauren Chen up to me makes me think it's more about the psychology of negotiation aspect.
And he called baby Lauren Chen up. He called 6 years ago baby Lauren Chen
right,
up.
Right, like if the plan was just, I want to get Lauren Chen on a shitty deal. I mean, and she didn't take it, they wouldn't have called her up and been like, you should negotiate these things in the future. He would have just been like, well, that was one sucker that slipped away.
Yeah, hang on. He gave her like a pep talk.
You guys are jumping on the it's okay because it's a negotiate thing, and that's an irrelevant point because
no.
They're willing to accept and be predatory and take advantage of people, basically cheat them if they can get away with it, and if they did, they'd be happy about it. That's friggin' crap.
What I'm saying is,
you agree with that point?
No, they
wait, hold on.
First of all, expect negotiation. That's
one at a time. One at a time, guys.
Let me. I understand what you're saying, Shad. You're saying that because they're offering. Your view is that they're offering these low terms so
not
that
just low, predatory terms,
right? Bad predatory terms, and they do that intentionally because they're like, well, we'll catch some people with these bad terms. That's your perspective of why the terms are the way they are. Yeah. And I'm saying that my perspective of why the terms are the way they are is because when people enter into these negotiations, then it depends on the business culture and depends on the individuals. Generally, there's an idea that, I know that the other side is going to lowball me, or I know that I'm going to highball myself. And so I think if for some businesses, and you can disagree with this, but I think for some businesses, the belief is, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's psychological research to support this, if you offer the person a just flat out good, fair deal from the get-go, a lot of people, I think even a lot of big people, would instantly turn that down because they're going to assume no matter what that your first offer is a bad offer.
Yeah.
And so if they start with a low offer, knowing that you're going to negotiate, then maybe you can get to the fair offer and you'll actually accept it.
Well, and the fair offer can seem like dog shit as well, too.
It also says in the offer sheet that this is not the full contract, this is not the full term. So like the expectation is they're going to move on from that. And let's be clear, like the Daily Wire has like 12 hosts or maximum. That might be highballing it. So the idea that they're offering this to all these creators and all that is just not true. Like they've courted like a few people in terms of talent, for their on-air kind of personalities.
Lauren Shen's video has confirmed that there are several pretty dog crap points, offering things in that proposal that they do offer. Seemingly by her, it looks like they offer those things to everyone.
Yeah, there's the generic portion. Candace Owens confirmed this when she said that they had the Facebook demonetization in there, right. and she was already demonetized on Facebook. Which again, like people are like, oh, Crowder would get an automatic 20% cut in his income if he signed up because of the YouTube demonetization. It's like if you think Crowder's dumb enough to sign a deal where they cut his pay by 20%. Like that's ridiculous. That's obviously going to be negotiated out. I do agree that Crowder is a premium talent. I do agree that Crowder's a premium talent, and in order to negotiate in good faith, you should probably examine this 6-page offer sheet and remove that because that's what pissed Crowder off. But like, yeah, he's not going to sign that deal.
Shad?
I think my point still stands entirely. Just because you're saying Crowder isn't dumb enough, that doesn't mean other people might not be. And I wouldn't say dumb. I would say naive enough and not aware enough that that is such a dog crap term that other people would accept it. So just because you're saying Crowder will negotiate against it does not by any means make okay what they're doing. And to Sitch's point, I think what he was saying about the business negotiations, that's a complete assumption. Because like if I know I've done this before, when I offer terms in a contract that I feel are fair and people want to negotiate away against it, if they actually come back with reasonable things, okay, I'm willing to entertain it. But if they want to push it something beyond what I honestly feel is fair, I say, no, this is absolutely fair. Right. Take it or leave it. Yeah. That's where it ends. And the assumption that everyone who thinks the first offer is going to be lowballing is pretty crappy. It just is. It just reveals what kind of dishonest and dog crap business is done. And just because the way this is standard business, the way it's been done, does not validate or justify it or make it moral in any way.
Oh, listen.
It's not standard because
hold on. I don't disagree. I mean, I would agree with you. I wish the business didn't work that way. But the problem is that people have different attitudes about the ways in which these things are done. And it's when you there's the assumption of, well, it's because they're immoral that's happening. I don't think that's an evidence. They just have a different view of the way in which business is going to be handled.
Has Stephen called them immoral?
Yes.
He called the term. Yeah. Well, I mean, Crowder also.
I see because the contract.
You called him immoral, Shad, as well.
Wait. The contract is immoral, and people who now they're trying to justify it, everything. But I'm just trying to understand. Is he actually calling them immoral? Or
yes. My big problem with Stephen's behavior in this isn't that he didn't like the contract. My big problem is that by not liking the contract, he's calling out not just the Daily Wire, but really all of conservative media as being grifters and not really standing for the principles that they believe in. And
I think on balance,
taking advantage of people.
Yeah, I'm trying to reflect to see because I don't think he said it specifically, but the tone and kind of information he's trying to convey, especially in the first video, was that Big Con is doing immoral things. Therefore,
that's why it's called StopBigCon.com.
What about Stephen lying about what's in the contract? So when he says that they get control over the social media, including the ones that you built yourself, in perpetuity, do you think that is like something that he should have said?
I missed that one. So hang on. He says, so I would want to double check your interpretation of what he's saying as well. I would want to see exactly what the wording is there, because they get control over all the social media
that they create,
except his personal one. So they get control over everything except his personal one during the term of the contract, and then they get to control everything that they created into perpetuity after that.
Well, wait, it's not. So in terms
Yeah,
of social
no.
media,
Crowder said they get control of everything in perpetuity. This is a huge point in the video I put out today, and we're almost at that point in the video right in the watch together, including the ones that you built. Am I supposed to interpret that as like a fair reading of the contract,
well,
or
wait,
Crowder?
wait. It doesn't. So it does say it depends because I'm assuming the Daily Wire would get. When we say control, what exactly does that mean? But
Like, no. It's so like Crowder's YouTube channel gets given back to him at the end of his term, right?
Yes,
but if
right.
the Daily Wire,
in perpetuity, that's that's not.
Hang on.
If the
except the episodes that were made with the Daily Wire, he doesn't get those back.
Yeah, but he gets his channel back.
But if the Daily Wire made like Steven Crowder DW like YouTube channel, then they keep that because they made that.
I mean, that is a massive red flag if they wanted. And I'm not saying they would, okay? But the fact that this proposal opens the door for them to be able to do really dodgy stuff like this, if they wanted, they could just, because it's the proposal also gives them right to make recuts of his content, okay? And so they could essentially re-upload his entire back catalog with just a Daily Wire logo on a new channel, right? And because that's their recutting of his content, they essentially have the right to keep that into perpetuity. So even though they're handing, it's so gracious of us to hand your back catalog back and you get control over it, they could copy that back catalog and keep it forever if they wanted. And when I say copying, I'm not saying direct duplications. They can make recuts of it, okay? And also, because this thing enables them, if they wanted to, make a new YouTube channel, right? And then basically they have the ability under these terms agreements to basically destroy the original Louder Crowder YouTube channel because they control the whole thing, and then rebuild Steven's entire brand on platforms that they have made. And that is such a vulnerability. There's no protection or assurances that what they give back to him, this YouTube channel, is going to be in the same state or stronger. And another massive red flag. That'll be like, you guys aren't giving me any security.
But that doesn't make any sense just because it doesn't make sense financially. You're paying for Steven Crowder because he has 6 million YouTube subscribers.
Hang on, deflection. That's not my point. My point is that
if your point is like theoretically they could do something.
Yes, absolutely.
If your point is theoretically, hold on.
If your point
is theoretically, I'll let you finish.
Yeah, my point is if the agreement has such a vulnerability in it, that's a dog crap element in the agreement. And I even said they might not necessarily do it. I don't think they would. But the fact that it even has gives them the power to do that is such a huge risk and vulnerability. And I would again, that's another thing I'd throw it out with.
If your point is if the initial contract sheet, this is what it is, right? Which is meant to be vague.
Are you trying to do the deflection?
Hold on. No. This is actually important because obviously they would negotiate this stuff out. Even the language would be negotiated out.
No, but they would accept every point if someone was naive.
But you still have to clarify a bunch of things. It even says in the offer sheet that this is not the full version of the contract. You know what else is not in this portion of the contract? The morality clause that all these people have, where like if Crowder cheats on his wife, if you don't know about this at conservative organizations, then he would get fired.
Irrelevant.
I'm just saying there is obviously more.
Is that
stuff
really in there?
Yeah, of course it is.
Really?
Yeah.
Of course.
Wow.
Yeah, but I feel that's relevant to the point because if someone was naive enough, even though this is a terms agreement, if they accepted every one of these terms, they would all be transferred into a real contract. And so the deflection that it's just a terms agreement, it does not hold water at all.
Well, again, it says his back catalog is theirs until after the term. So again, you would have to hash out what exact. No, you're saying in theory they could clip it out and just copy it.
Crap, dog crap. Yeah.
Well, again, you're saying in theory they could do that, but the problem is if it says in the term sheet because it's not specific enough that they have to give him back his content, then maybe they can't do that. That has to be hashed out in the actual contract.
Maybe they can't do what?
Maybe they can't just clip up his stuff and keep the clipped version of his stuff in perpetuity because they say they have to give him back his backlog.
No, the terms agreement says anything that they make, they get to keep, which means reclipping and stuff. They're making new content with that. They get to keep that stuff.
It also says they have to return. They also says they have to return his stuff.
Only
afterwards.
the original
again, like, but this is like something that they have to hash out because you're in a gray area. You're just assuming everything cuts the Daily Wire's way.
Well, I thought you guys were talking about two different things. I thought, Sean, you were initially talking about the channels, and you're talking about.
Well, first of all, Crowder said in his video, let's be clear, that they keep his channel forever, his social media accounts, even the ones he built forever. Like that's in his video, this video that we're looking at.
Was it possible he misunderstood that he?
No, he said in perpetuity, and then at the.
I'm saying, is it possible Crowder just misunderstood? Not that he's lying.
It's possible that Steven Crowder misunderstood. Steven Crowder, the guy who's like not an expert on contracts. You would assume his
agent would know,
but
though.
It's not possible that his agent who received this contract misunderstood unless Crowder needs to fire his agent.
Right.
Look, and this is the thing, right? If Crowder actually knowingly misrepresents anything, I'll call him out on that. And if that is untrue, bullcrap, you know?
The whole thing,
but that doesn't remove, like, are you saying because Crowder's done some bad things, that means this terms agreement is okay? Because it's not.
That's not what I said, but I said Crowder's lying about the terms agreement. When he says that if he gets sick, then he's going to get fined $100,000. That's not true.
Hang on. Like, there's an interpretation of that it is. If he doesn't deliver an episode, or not only that, if he doesn't even give an ad read that the Daily Wire wanted in that episode, they could fine him $100,000. And by the way, they're only paying him $65,000 per episode. That's already scummy. We will fine you more than the individual amount that they're willing to pay for the episodes. So that's already greedy and scummy. But then,
because it's a failure to deliver.
There are conditions that they can take $100,000 that could be the result of being sick. I don't see that as a
except there's a disability portion of it where it's if you're unable to, which would be covered under sickness, then Crowder only gets fined the prorated rate.
So he still gets fined though. That's still
that's for not delivering the episode.
To be fair, there would at least be a grace, allowance of say 5 episodes undelivered for things outside of his control, like sickness.
That's not even allowing that. That's all stuff he could negotiate, but like I said, Crowder says if he gets a sick day or gets into a car accident, he'll be fined $100,000 a day. But that's not true. If he doesn't deliver the episodes, then he just gets the prorated rate.
Which is, first of all, still getting fined for things outside of control. At least a minimum grace period is scummy.
Yeah, if you don't work, you don't get paid.
No. But again, so... hang on. There's a lot of sick allowances in normal contracts where you don't get work, if you don't work, you do get paid if you're sick, and it's to a certain amount. And so I actually want to go back and reread the contract because it sounded like there is a condition there that if he doesn't deliver episodes for extended periods, like Crowder had to take off like a month at times for sickness, right? That they can find him, like dox him $100,000 per episode, because I think the sickness has a limit on it, doesn't it?
There's no fault of his own, and then there's illness and like disability. There's like a disability clause. So Crowder just doesn't deliver the episodes, like he refuses to do it or whatever. Then that $100,000 fine goes in. And by the way, this is another issue with personalization of his contract that I cover in my video, because the reason for that being more than the episode is because theoretically in the other Daily Wire contracts, the Daily Wire handles production. However, in Crowder's case, he's handling his own production. So yeah, that is something that has to be adjusted and hashed out and all of that. But if he gets sick or seriously injured, he only loses the prorated rate of his deal for not making the episode. So like him saying that he gets fined $100,000 for getting hit by a car is just not true.
So hang on. I think there's a condition where that I would want to reread that up. But my point is, even if he gets fined and there's no grace period where he could, not lose very significant amount of money for things outside of control, is still scummy. You're trying to say it's okay because he's going to be fined a prorated amount. It's like, no, at least have a small grace period. And then it's a perpetual thing. Every episode that he doesn't deliver under the thing, that prorated, doxing of the full figure, it like still happens. A much fairer way to do it is that, because it sounds like that they might not pay him for work delivered because it's always you deliver and then we pay, right? Much fairer thing is that if he gets into a condition that he cannot deliver the episodes, this agreement can be considered defunct or renegotiation from there on. That is just like strictly you're going to be doxed at that amount.
For all the dummies, what does pro rata mean in terms of this contract?
So it just means like if you divide the amount of money he's getting paid by the amount of episodes that he is supposed to deliver, like he would just be fined that rate, which is about $63,000,
as opposed to incurring an additional penalty.
Yeah. But again, Crowder Crowder only has to work 4 days a week. He can shoot multiple episodes in a day.
Hang on. Wait.
He can shoot multiple episodes in a day.
Wait, Sean, I got to jump on this one. Do you think producing a show like that only requires working 4 days a week, that there's no scripting or prep time outside of those days? That's
anyone
insane.
with anyone with over 20 employees does not work 4 days a week.
Again,
that is such a disingenuous framing,
ridiculous.
and I got so pissed off at Jeremy Boring for framing it that way, and you're doubling down.
My point is he's not delivering an episode every day.
No, you said he's only working 4 days a week.
Okay, so he's not supposed. He's only has to deliver episodes 4 days a week, and on top of that, he can shoot multiple episodes in a day. So what the 100K is for is willful not completing the episodes. So if he doesn't use all of that extra time in order to complete the episodes, which by the way, Crowder would negotiate down the number of episodes. Like they want obviously as many episodes out of him as they can get. But of course, he's going to negotiate down the episodes.
Hang on. You're trying to deflect a lot of scummy things in his terms agreement. Oh, he'll just negotiate it. No. Just the fact that they're willing to propose these scummy things is crap enough.
192 episodes is not that bad anyway.
No. You're trying to say that, he could just make them any other. Like, there's a lot of production and work that's required to produce those 4 episodes a week. Come on, man.
Isn't that
okay? I think that's why Crowder has a whole production crew and he's getting paid for his production.
I think that's the agreement that maybe, or the disagreement that is the root which won't be able to get past, is that you, Shad, think that just lowballing to this extent in of itself is the bad action.
Yes.
Where Sean and myself don't necessarily think that is the bad action on its own, since it was open for negotiation. And we both believe that they thought it was going to be negotiated as well.
To me, that's irrelevant because, again, like,
I understand
he was
that,
naive enough, they would happily accept all those terms of that terms agreement if anyone was naive enough to accept it, and that's friggin' crap.
Well,
that's scummy as hell.
Like, so if you go to Target and you buy something off the shelf and you take it to the counter, you can't negotiate, right? It says what the price of, the gum is when you buy it. But if you go to a flea market and you just grab some random thing there, there's some expectation that, they marked up the price because you're going to go negotiate it with, the guy at the yard sale at the flea market or whatever. I mean, do you think that practice within of itself is a scummy practice?
I think it's a false equivalence, because a more direct equivalence is that someone builds a house for like $500,000, and then when someone approaches them, it's like, oh, you're a contractor, right? I'd like you to build me that same house, and I'll pay you $250,000. What do you mean? We're offering you an insane amount of money, $250,000, isn't it? I can't believe you're turning that down. This is so much. And it's like, no, there is a market value that you can equate on multiple different ways to determine how much value the Louder with Crowder brand is. And their low ball figure was insanity for what they were offering.
I mean, but again, like you have to
hold on. Let me just say that your examples don't happen, because it's not like the Daily Wire they did not give Steven Crowder this deal, and then when he didn't take it, they just went public and said, I can't believe Steven Crowder didn't take this deal. This was a lot of money, blah 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 blah. He didn't want to negotiate with them, and they said okay.
Well, no, the Daily Wire said multiple times that their offer was fair. Okay.
Yeah, now that
they
Crowder
actually
has attacked them publicly.
Yeah, a fair starting point.
No. They said it was fair. This is a good offer. Ben said it's perfectly legitimate and stuff like that. And it's like, what? That's like a bad look for them because that's basically them saying the terms of this agreement as is, if they got transferred in a contract, went full way forward, were perfectly fair and even innovative. Oh, like, holy crap. Really?
But again, like, everybody knew, like, you're pretending that Crowder would sign this. Like,
that's a deflection.
It's not a deflection. It's not a deflection. I'll explain why. I'll explain why. That's like saying, like, the Knicks would, if the Knicks offered LeBron James $3 million a year to play basketball for them, like, yeah, the Knicks would sign him for that. And obviously the Knicks would be happy with that. But in reality, there's no possibility that Crowder was going to sign it. They knew it was going to be negotiated. So they put it out in such a way to say, here's big number, let's negotiate, because that's the reality that we're living in. If you're like, oh, they would have accepted it. Yeah, they would have hired Crowder if he would accept $100,000. That doesn't mean anything because that's not connected to reality.
It means they're willing to
It means nothing. What are you talking about?
It means they're willing to cheat people if they can get away with it. You just acknowledge that.
But he's not going to sign that deal. Everybody know it's not a deflection.
Stitch, you made this point that by making the terms agreement so crappy, there's a chance that certain things might slip under the radar and they would get away with it. Whereas they
well, no,
wouldn't
I
if
said
they
that
just
was
offered a
your
fair-
perception of.
Okay, well
of
then,
how
thank you for
it's working.
contextualizing, because I agree
Right.
with that perception. That it really reveals that if Crowd, because you're saying that Crowder will negotiate everything. Again, irrelevant point, because it shows that they're willing to get away with, if they could get away with it.
So, well, let me ask
Sitch,
you.
do you
let me
think
ask
they
you,
would step in? Just one second. Sitch, do you
Yeah.
think they would step in? Like if Crowder was going to sign the contract, do you think they would step in and say, "Oh, listen, that was a low ball offer. We can do better than that." Do you think they would do that?
I don't think they would step in, but I don't think that's a realistic scenario.
Okay, I'm just.
Well, let me ask. So hypothetical. Say that the Daily Wire has perfect knowledge, and they know that when they offer Steven Crowder or someone the lowball deal, that they will 100% not take it. Does that change your perception of that kind of offer?
Yeah, but I don't think in any reality they would be like,
No,
well,
I'm
Stephen, don't
trying to
accept.
figure out
Yeah.
what is
Yeah,
the exact issue.
But the exact
because-
issue is that they would willing to cheat people if they can get away with it. And
Right, but
it
that
seems
to
like
me,
all-
that's an assumption that I don't
Oh,
share.
come on! You know that.
Well, this is why I asked the question.
Wait, do you think?
You're-
Let's
you're-
remove. Let's
Sean
remove
hasn't even
everyone.
acknowledged that
He's
if they
he's
could
referring
sign
to
people-
it like Sitch. He's referring to it as cheating them. But yeah, obviously the Daily Wire is looking for the best deal for the Daily Wire, just like
Of course.
Steven Crowder is looking for the
Right.
best deal for Steven Crowder.
So do you? Because I don't think there's any. If we remove other people from this, I don't think there's any. It's hard for me to imagine any reality where Steven Crowder would accept this deal, or really any deal, without any sort of negotiation. So I don't think the Daily Wire went into it with that thought process. Like, oh, he's just going to accept this.
All right,
Remember,
so-
they sent this deal to Crowder's agent because his agent solicited the offer.
So hang on. Going on your point, that I still feel this is irrelevant, because my main issue is the fact that there are a lot of people who would not, are naive enough to not realize their worth and their rights and other things like that, to the point where a lot of these crappy terms agreements would slip through into a contract, right? And that's my big objection. Just because Stephen would object to them and negotiate doesn't withdraw my massive criticism I have against it. But even if we look at Stephen individually, right, there is that point that there is so much dog crap in this contract that, as a result, certain really crappy stipulations might go under the radar because they're focusing on all this other crap, that he ends up with an exploitative contract even after negotiation.
Right. So if hypothetically, say, we knew that they only gave this contract to Steven and they gave fair contracts to, smaller content creators, but you still have a problem with it because you think this contract is specifically egregious towards Steven, right?
That as well. But we have confirmation that there are some really crappy terms in that terms agreement that they've been giving out standard for other people.
Well, because it seems like
they
what
say they
do...
give the same. They see that it seems like, from what we get from Candace Owens, because Lauren wasn't very specific in her video, but it seems like what we heard from Candace Owens is that they give that same sheet with the percentages to every one of their like premium talent that they're trying to get as their opening offer, whether or not it applies to them or not. Like, for instance, Candace Owens, Facebook demonetization, Steven Crowder, YouTube demonetization. Like, they were both already and notably demonetized from both of those platforms before they got that offer.
Yeah.
So but that is their standard thing. And obviously they get that part taken out, but
how could they in any world put that into this terms agreement, knowing that Steven's already demonetized on YouTube?
Because they just copy paste everything.
That's insane. No. Hang on. Jeremy said that they specifically catered things in this terms agreement for Steven specifically. They catered it to him. There's the point where
the money amount, obviously.
No. He was saying, they said it's even innovative. But Jeremy Boring at one point was saying that he will bear the production cost because that will enable him to have control. We won't get to tell him what to say, which actually is not written in the terms agreement at all. It doesn't give him that protection. And Jeremy Boring framing it that way, that we're doing this so he could get this benefit from it, is actually gaslighting, because he's showing the terms agreement, not saying that.
I would imagine if there was a content.
No, he said Crowder likes to control his own production, so they have that in there. That he
I would
imagine.
If there was
that to do that, he would then get control over it. That we wouldn't get to tell him what to say.
He says that they don't tell.
Hold on. I would imagine that if there was some kind of content moderation or control that the Daily Wire had over the content of the show, Crowder would have broadcasted that in his video.
But
the
more
fact that he didn't makes me think that that's not in the contract.
I think he just missed this point.
More importantly, you're definitely wrong about this, because he said clearly that he doesn't tell any of his hosts what to say, and he controls the production for all of them. So the idea that he made that delineation that Crowder would be able to speak freely because he controls his production, that's insane. That would essentially be admitted. What he was implying. That's not what he was implying. He said Crowder likes to he said Crowder likes to control his own production, so we have him controlling his own production. They do that in-house.
And he framed it in the sense that we don't get to tell him what to say. No, he framed it
just not true, because he would be saying that he controls what all these other guys say. That's not what he was implying.
Look, we disagree massively on what is being implied.
You're dead wrong. Like, we disagree because I'm accurate and you're inaccurate.
This interpretation doesn't. Again, don't you think, Shad, that if there was some clause like that in the contract, Crowder would have shown it?
If he picked up on it, I didn't pick it up on the first one, but it was my second watching through that I picked up of like, holy crap, he's implying that by giving him the production, he is saying by the context of this is why we're doing it, he likes to have control over how things are made, and we don't get to tell people what to say. Framing it that way is implying very clearly that the purpose of giving him the control of production will protect him from us telling him what to say.
My interpretation is that he said...
this is an aside point to the point that I actually was making, was that this framing is describing that we are tailoring elements in this terms agreement specifically for Steven Crowder, okay? And so that means that the YouTube, penalty was put in knowing very clearly who you're dealing with, and that was tailored specifically for Steven Crowder. And if this was tailored specifically for Steven Crowder, they put that in knowing that they can reduce the fee by 20% instantly because it's already demonetized on YouTube.
Right. No, this isn't inaccurate for two reasons. One, we know from Candace Owens that portion of the term sheet is their generic portion. So when he's talking about Crowder including the production budget, that's the part that's tailored to Crowder. On top of that, Jeremy Boring did not say that this was a way for Crowder to control what he says, because he was trying to make the point throughout that whole video. He said it 600 times that he doesn't tell anybody at the Daily Wire what they say. He was saying that Crowder likes to control his production. That's why we gave him control over his production. That's it. Like, so you're wildly misinterpreting that.
No.
So you're saying Jeremy Boring said that. You're saying Jeremy Boring was saying that he controls what Ben Shapiro says, what Matt Walsh says, what Jordan Peterson says.
You gotta one at a time.
You're just 100% wrong on this.
No, bull crap. Come on,
Sean.
Let Boring say it the way you said. He just said that Crowder likes to control the production, so we're giving him control of the production. That is not what he said. What did he say,
He
did not say it. We can.
Do you want me to read what he said? I have the transcript open.
Yeah, bring it up. Sure.
So this is at 6 minutes or 7 minutes in the video. He says, the initial term of $25 million for renewal term, if extended pay and monthly installments. Like I said, it's a pretty big number, but we thought for a talent like Steven, this is probably the minimum number that's going to get us in the door so we can sit down and talk to him. That production cost, this is important. We never made a deal like this offer that we put in front of Steven because Steven's a very independent guy. I mean, all of our talent have very independent voices. Obviously, we can't tell them what to say. Candace says what she wants, what Jordan Peterson says, what he wants, Ben, Michael. But Steven has always built in this protection for himself that he wants to actually produce his content. He doesn't want most of other guys that come in the studio and we turn on the cameras, we point the cameras, we put the lights up. Steven likes to do that with his own team just to doubly make sure no one's interfering with his content. Not that we would. And so we anticipated that and we said Crowder will bear the burden of production, including all costs associated therewithin.
That's like a huge cut of the contract.
Yeah. Two points right there is framing this whole production cost is so no one interferes with his content and that no one would tell him what to say. Those two things, like Jeremy is framing, this is what bearing the production cost would grant Steven, and it is not in the terms agreement at all.
So that's not how I interpret what he's saying. How I interpret what he's saying is that
he just said, I just told you exactly what he said about
Crowder specifically and unusually wants to have doubly make sure he has control over everything. And so he's deciding to take production costs on his own.
Yeah.
So he's kind of explaining why Crowder would have the production costs where the other people don't. not saying that he would moderate their content.
He frames it with two specific, very clear things. No one would interfere, therefore, with his content, and no one would tell him what to say. That's not an agreement.
No, first of all, he said clearly that none of his people get told what to say, which is the point that I was making. And Crowder likes to do this because he thinks it gives him more independence. So he's giving him production control because Crowder likes to have it, not because he's giving Crowder this independence that nobody else has. Like, that's presumed.
Now, the way that he's bringing up these, contextualization points, control of the content, being told what to say, at the very point that is trying to justify him bearing the cost of production, is implying to people listening to him that it's fair for him to bear the cost of production as a result, and it's implying that as a result, Stephen will have full control over, his content.
He said Stephen wants it. He even made it a point to say that obviously we wouldn't interfere.
It was very manipulative wording on Jeremy Boring.
Now it's manipulative wording.
Well,
so it went from Jeremy Boring said this to now it's manipulative wording after we read the transcript.
Hang on. It's manipulative because he said that. Like, how am I shifting my position there?
So
no. Sean, how did I shift my position in what I said?
You said that Jeremy Boring was saying that he gave him production costs for his independence. And then I pointed out he would not have said it like that because he was making it clear that he doesn't interfere.
Yes, absolutely.
He doesn't interfere with anybody's work.
Hang on. But how has my position changed? Where you said first,
because now you're like, he didn't say that. It's just manipulative wording.
Well, I don't think your position changed. I think you.
Thank you.
I think you remembered your interpretation of his sentence as the sentence, when the sentence is a little bit more vague.
No, I think that's essentially exactly what I feel that's what he is saying. He's trying to say.
Yeah, I understand that. But Sean and myself disagree with that interpretation of what he said. Now, obviously, we won't know exactly unless we hear, we couldn't confirm it, I guess I should say, unless Crowder talks about this on Monday. But my interpretation of what he said was that, he specifically said he doesn't control the content. Nothing in the contract that I saw says that, and I would assume Crowder would bring it up if it did. And he says that, to me, the reason he's saying this is because he's trying to explain to the audience why Crowder would bear the cost of production. So he's saying, well, Crowder wanted this. It was on Crowder. It's not our fault.
And it's also to make it clear that the money is not Crowder's salary.
Right.
It's Crowder's total production budget, including his salary. That's the fee.
And I think on one hand, what he said counts into your favor, Shad, in terms of that. It shows that there was it wasn't just a completely standard contract. There was some implementation or some change of the contract that was personalized. But I don't think it shows kind of the nefarious intent of content control that you're perceiving it does.
So it's either nefarious or it shows unimaginable stupidity. Like, they're dealing with Stephen Crowder and they unironically have a stipulation in there that he will be, doxed 20% of the contract for being demonetized or banned off of YouTube. How could they put that in, knowing who they're dealing with? Well, Stephen's permanently demonetized anyway. Come on.
This is where I agree with this overall sentiment, but I disagree that they put that in as a nefarious way. This is their generic thing. They did this to Candace Owens, but I also agree that Stephen Crowder's the biggest free agent in conservative political media. So that being said, they should have personalized this aspect to him as a way to not piss him off. This is, as I pointed out in my video, this is really going to annoy Steven because it looks weird, because obviously he's a sensitive dude. He's more sensitive than Candace Owens, who just asked for the Facebook portion to be removed. So yeah, that bothered him. And by the way, when I say he's sensitive, it's not an attack. What I'm saying is Crowder, Crowder has a giant ego. That's just a fact. But what I'm saying is,
of course, that's not an attack either, right? He has a giant ego.
Crowder is he's earned it to a certain extent.
But that's not an attack.
He's a premium talent, and he should be treated in a more premium way. And if it were my company, not the Daily Wire, but if it were my company and I was offering money to Crowder, I would make sure that I wouldn't have stuff that obviously doesn't apply to him that was going to piss him off in my initial offer. So this is the 10% where I agree with Crowder.
I would actually go further a bit than you even, Sean. I can't stand people acting like divas, right? I don't think anyone, just because they're successful, deserves special treatment. But my point is, no one deserves this type of treatment that was offered Crowder. And I have issues with Crowder. He seems to be a bit of a diva as well, and not a bit actually, sometimes full blown, and other things.
I think what happens with a lot of these standard contracts in these big businesses is that the reason the standard is created in the first place is that if you've ever worked at like a big business or a big corporation or something, no one wants to take responsibility for any fuck ups. And so that's part of why everything's so standardized, so that if someone messes up, they say, well, it's not my fault. I'm just following the standard. And I think when it comes to these, well, let me just finish. I think when it comes to these contract negotiations, they don't want to like the Daily Wire doesn't want to accidentally put something in there that greatly benefits Steven and that they didn't catch, or that they catch too late and then Steven gets all, out of whack about it. So if they probably start with the standard boilerplate contract. And then if they want to add something before it's even negotiated, if they want to add something, it's probably a big deal. A bunch of big, important, highly paid people have to look over specific parts of the contract. And, that costs a lot of money. Yeah. Time is money here. And so they don't necessarily go through the entire contract with a fine-tooth comb the way that I agree with both of you that they should have when trying to get someone like Crowder.
I have a question.
If you're the Daily Wire, you don't go into these premium contract negotiations. Like Crowder's bigger than Peterson and Candace Owens, but like let's put them in the same basket for the heck of it. With any Daily Wire host besides Brett Cooper, who they found in like some mine somewhere and churned her into the celebrity, right? Like, so they've only done this like 10 times. Like, so the idea that you're like, if you're a giant record label, I understand having a standard contract, but I feel like you could have made some adjustments. Now, I think maybe the Daily Wire is like playing 8-dimensional chess. What they're trying to do is if you end up in a situation like this, when the contract gets leaked, you see that the base offer sheet, because notice after you agree to negotiate here, everything is confidential. But the base offer sheet looks the same for everybody. So that way, if you're like a kid and you go look up what Crowder's getting because he leaked it online, you'll see that this is what they open with for everyone. So maybe that's why that's standard. But I still think it shouldn't have been standard for Crowder just because of who he is.
Hey,
I don't think it should be standard for anyone. I think that this terms agreement,
hold on a second,
if it is
Shad.
standard.
Do you guys think anyone at the Daily Wire or the Blaze communicated with one another? Do you think any of the management between those two companies communicated
before or after? You mean?
I hope
during this, or like obviously. I don't know. I mean, it's standard operating procedure to contact someone's previous employer.
Not like this, because if you collude against Crowder, like,
well, I'm not saying they're
to like suppress his price. Yeah, but I would think they wouldn't talk to him.
Right, because they would sense that it would be perceived as a conflict of interest, and it would probably hurt him in the long run. Okay, you can get into legal issues right there. Like if you call the Blaze and you're like, "Hey, what are you offering Crowder? We're going to offer him $1 more."
Yeah, right.
And like you're suppressing his price.
Well, look, I thought these guys were look, they're talking to Susan Wojcicki, asking what words they can say. Jeez, why aren't they talking to the Blaze?
That is true. Like the Daily Wire and Jeremy Boring and Ben Shapiro spoke to Susan Wojcicki once each. And
they probably all went to dinner together. Susan Wojcicki, those scumbags, Daily Wire, the Blaze.
You know what they did with both of those conversations? Advocated for Crowder's monetization. It's Zuckerberg.
Well, that's what they said, obviously. But
it's Zuckerberg, by the way, that people really harp in on the collusion, because Ben's been to dinner with him. They have a guy on staff that was like went to school with Zuckerberg.
No.
Well, there's that too. Like,
so just on this point,
that was me.
Hang on. Just by bringing up, like, we've done all these nice things for Crowder and everything, it feels like it comes off when people are bringing up these points when we're trying to talk about how scummy the terms agreement was. It feels like saying just because we've done nice things for someone means that you should allow us to get away with cheating you.
No, that's not true.
That feels like what it's coming, because look, if they've done nice things for Crowder, Crowder's done nice things for them. What they tried to do, not just with Crowder, because your other point, Sean, was that this is a standard thing that they give to everyone. That makes it even worse for me. Like if this is what they're trying to pull over on everyone, that's my point. That's friggin' crap.
I don't think it's crazy to, like, if you're paying somebody to be on YouTube and paying them to be on Apple and paying them to be on Spotify, to have it worked in your contract that they got to remain, or like some incentive for them to remain on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. Like, I understand why people are upset about this. I think Crowder framed it in his initial video beautifully as like cucking to big tech censorship.
Wait.
But again, you buy Crowder, the YouTuber, because he's a YouTuber.
Hang on. But before you, let me interrupt for 1 second, Shaq. I have to protect you, Shad. People thought you coughed and said Jew. No, that was me. Okay. I have the Jewish immunity idol.
Did you? Did not say that. Holy shit. I thought it was Shad. I was about to go listen.
That was me. That was not Shad.
So I was about to. I was like, Shad, we got to clear this up before you leave the show. Jeez.
Okay, no.
Sure. I have to say, what you just said, I feel, is very, very manipulative. Okay, you said you think it's fine for them to build in some, was it incentive or some type of penalization or incentive for them to remain on the platform, right? To conflate that with what they actually did is unbelievable, because that's not just some incentive. That's what they are trying to do is insane, right? I actually agree. Some incentive might be all right, but to conflate what they're doing is just some incentive. No. Come on, call a spade a spade. What they are doing to try and incentivize him being on that is dox him up to $10 million and more in other areas.
Yeah, it's a financial incentive.
They're the only ones who
Chad,
have the goal to try and
dox him. You mean dox him.
Dock him.
It's different. Doxing is a completely different thing.
Like, all right, Adam, I'm so glad you correct me on, because sometimes in language
I know. Jeez, everyone's going to say you're a doxer.
I know. Thank you, Adam.
It's a financial incentive, and like I said, Crowder.
It's more than that. Come on, you could have a financial incentive, or even
it's
just
a large financial incentive.
Like
I said, it's a large financial incentive. But again, Crowder is only relevant to the Daily Wire because he's the largest conservative voice on YouTube. And they're docking him 20% of his pay. That's significant. I wouldn't want a 20% pay cut. But here's the thing. If I got docked, if I got banned off of YouTube, I'd lose closer to 100% of my income, not 20%.
Yeah, but they're also
Crowder already bears the brunt and the burden of being on YouTube and the ability of being banned. So this is, again, a mitigation of risk, because Crowder takes 100% of the risk on his own.
Sure, and I think you're deflecting the point that I raised previously. They also want to dock him, and yeah, I'm so glad I'll say it correctly now. Thank you again, Adam. Dock. It feels good, right?
Much better.
It's so much better. It feels better. It's like I feel complete, right? They want to dock him.
Yeah,
doxing him was like even more rude. I would agree with you there. They're gonna dock his pay and tell you what his address and phone number is.
I've been saying dox in all my other freaking videos.
No way. No way.
Night's Watch exposed. What am I gonna do? So they also want to dock him, right? 10% for being banned off of Facebook, 10% for being banned, 20% for being banned, was it Apple, iTunes or something like that? And then 10% off some other thing, right? Spotify, right? And he would not lose 10% revenue potential on the Ladder Crowd brand being banned off of Facebook. Not even close. And the fact that Daily Wire can still rake in insane amounts of money because of, whatever subscriptions, advertising revenue, and everything like that.
Is Steven monetized on Facebook? Can I just ask? Because I never heard of him being demonetized on Facebook.
But the thing is, though, that's insanely unreasonable. They want to dock him. Well, 10% is 5 million out of the thing. 5 million for something that actually is not going to be reducing the amount he's producing for Daily Wire by not even 5 million. He'd still be making insane amounts of money. That's insane. That's just absolute bonkers.
Daily Wire is big on Facebook, so they will be distributing his content on Facebook. And I don't know how Crowder's Facebook page is doing, but Facebook is monetized. And if Crowder's not demonetized specifically on Facebook, he probably makes a killing on that website.
But also, this is the other thing, he gets banned off of these platforms for things outside of his control that he can't predict, right? And so to put all that risk on him and then penalize him for it, that should be joint shared risk. If you actually want to be a team player, as they say, a shared partnership, they should have his back. Yeah, well, no, but they should have his back in times like this. And the whole Louder Crowder brand, he's been trying to mitigate damages for being banned off these platforms by building up Rumble, by building up Mug Club, okay? And so the whole, one of the main value propositions of the Louder Crowder brand is that it is still valuable even when getting banned off of Facebook and stuff, and that they want to now, it feels like, rob him of $5 million, $10 million when there's still so much money being made off the brand, even in face of these bans, is insanity. I would be like, are you kidding me?
But they do make a ton of their money through YouTube and Facebook. Like,
that doesn't affect
like that. That's the thing. But I get your point. You want them to have his back. I think they are incentivized to keep him on because that's why they have that 90-day thing where they have to try to resolve it and all that. But they are incentivized because they would make way more money if Crowder were on these platforms than off. But I get that why it leaves a bad taste in people's mouth, why it looks dirty that they would be abandoning him. Like, if Crowder got Alex Jones, which he's not Alex Jones, but it's not beyond the possibility.
He could get that easily.
It could happen. Like, they could ban all of us tomorrow. Like,
Well, he pushes the bounds. He literally does, though. I mean,
no,
that's why,
honestly,
that's why when you say
to be fair to Steven,
I mean,
to be fair to Steven, he actually doesn't, because the thing that he got banned for monetization for the Carlos Maza video was Maza cut together a bunch of his jokes from like 15 videos, made a compilation, dropped it the day before Pride, and YouTube was like, no, this is within our terms of service. And essentially they force YouTube to change it and enforce it after the fact. So Crowder didn't break the bounds right there or anything like that. He followed the rules and got punished, which I think is worse.
Well, of course that's worse, but you can't, like, he knows what he could say to get banned tomorrow.
Yeah,
and I'm sure there's lots of stuff lots of conservatives would like to say, and they know they would get banned tomorrow. Obviously it's unfair, but it's not it's not an unknown. So I don't understand. How do you put a contract together that has some sort of Kanye clause where if all of a sudden the person goes insane, you've got some recourse?
That's the thing. If Crowder signs this deal, all the money's guaranteed, right? The whole, let's say he gets the 75 million that what's his face Boring said he was willing to pay him, right? And then Crowder goes on his show the next day across all platforms in full blackface, and says it's time to talk about like these N-word like Jews, right?
No
and
holds
he gets
barred.
banned off of everything. Like, should the Daily Wire still pay him like the full extent of his contract?
But that's a huge exaggeration.
But how do you put that in the contract?
I'm giving an example. I'm giving an example that he would get banned from everything as the example.
Sean, it seems like you're trying to conflate that because there could be reasonable incentives built in the contract to incentivize them to stay on the platform, therefore justifies what they did put in it, and that's bullcrap. I agree. I think, in things that incentivize him not getting banned and stuff like that might make sense, but what they did put in to incentivize that was insanity.
Well, don't you think, though?
Hold on. Somebody put in the chat, they're like, Crowder said it's time for the truth.
He did say that. But no, so I understand what you're saying, Shad, in terms of, because I listened to part of your video, in terms of like, you feel that the demonetization clause is essentially, they're only giving Crowder the risk and the Daily Wire is not assuming some of the risk, which, first of all, I disagree with that idea because they are still assuming risk, because they're not like, oh, if you get demonetized on YouTube or whatever, that we're going to figure out whatever the exact amount is and just subtract it from you. They're just giving him some sort of flat percentage. And the second thing that I don't think is necessarily being thought about here is that part of the reason that those demonetization clauses exist in the contract is because the Daily Wire is saying Crowder can go do whatever, say whatever he wants. If they were saying that, we get to okay all your scripts beforehand, we're going to write your show, then I would 100% agree that those clauses would make no sense because the Daily Wire would be signing off on everything he's doing. To me, those clauses exist because it's like, well, if you want the freedom to say whatever you want without control, then you have to assume this amount of risk to do that.
You're saying with great power comes great responsibility?
That's what I'm saying. I'm Uncle Ben, yes.
The way you achieve all that they want is they actually had a fair revenue split. I think that would have been a much fairer proposal from the get-go, because then they bear equal amount of risk, and this incentive is already pre-built into it.
But why should they? Why should they?
But to be, what do you mean? Hold on. Reportedly, Crowder wants no risk. Like, he wants to be paid a flat rate at a high dollar amount. You're proposing like a revenue split.
I think that would have been better, but if they're not going to offer any benefits for achieving higher above the 50 million and whatever 7,500 million, whatever they end up paying, right? But they want to dock him things that that's unfair. That's like no, shared risk, shared reward, no shared risk.
So
that payment.
When a business hires someone, they're assuming all the risk. They're hiring someone, they're paying them. So if that if Crowder gets evaporated from the face of the earth tomorrow, then and there's no clause for that in the contract, then Daily Wire has assumed all the risk. By hiring Crowder,
I don't actually.
Well, hold on. Let me just finish. By hiring Crowder and saying we're going to pay you some set amount, they're assuming the risk. Just on the offset,
which they could do. Like,
which they could do, right?
That's a normal thing when you hire someone, but they're actually licensing his show. Like, to be clear,
so
they're
then
not actually hiring him.
Exactly, that's true. They're licensing, they're not hiring. So then they say, well, we don't want to assume 100% of the risk here. We want to share some of the risk with the talent because we're not going to control your content. So you're sharing the risk with us. That's what's happening in that contract.
All right, because what you were saying before about, if he died right then and there.
Well, I'm just using it as a ridiculous example.
because I don't think that's an equivalent example, because he's still, all the work that he made up to that point still made the money, and he deserves to get paid, or whoever, you know, inherits whatever the rights, gets paid for the work produced up until that point.
No, right. That wasn't my point exactly with the example, but it's fine.
Okay, and what was your point?
Well, no, just saying that by the process of by an employer hiring someone or licensing someone or whatever, by just saying we're going to pay you before something even happens, or just to even take a chance with them producing money, they're assuming all the risk. The person who's being hired or licensed is not assuming the risk in that environment.
Doesn't that depend on when the money is paid, though?
Well, I mean, under normal circumstances, you're right, Sitch.
Yeah. Like, when does the money get paid? Because I'm thinking, like, if he does something that gets banned, right, he still deserves to get paid for the work that he did up to that point. All right.
Sure. He gets paid.
But the thing is,
he gets paid monthly.
Yeah. The banning that he could incur, like, in a lot of instances, especially for Facebook and other platforms, and the only argument you have is maybe YouTube, but he's got a big following off of YouTube and in the Mug Club and everything like that, to penalize him vastly more than the actual loss of revenue would be for those types of bans is insanity.
Well, first of all, I don't know if we could calculate that number exactly anyway.
I think the key to his revenue is YouTube, though.
We could be pretty rest assured that he's not going to be losing $5 million in the next month if he gets banned off of Facebook.
Yeah, but it's not just for the next. It's 90. The presumption is forever that they'll never be able to.
No. Hold on. 90 days were only for advertisers.
No. Hold on. You're saying $5 million next month if he gets banned off of Facebook. Like, you can't use the full 4-year term $5 million, which is 10% of the 50, which is the 4-year
so you would
term
say 10%
for like a month.
You would say 10% or 20% of whatever his next payment is, which
I assume that's how
it sounds like annual.
No, I don't care about that. I'm just saying you can't say next month he would lose $5 million.
It would be 10% of whatever is monthly.
That when you're saying $5 million is 10% of the whole contract. That's over the 4 years.
Because he gets paid monthly. Because the ban just says banned, then you're docked 10%, $5 million. Okay. And I would have massive red flags, because what should have been there is like banned for how long. Okay. And this is like, you know, 5 million from the entire thing. Under the wording of the contract, the terms agreement, it actually seems to give them power that even if he was banned for a month, he's banned, they can actually dock him that full $5 million amount.
No,
I agree.
It says that they have like a. It says that they have like they're going to try to resolve it too. Like,
I don't know if it says that for it says that for
the resolution is.
It says that for content strikes. I'm not sure if it says it for the ban, but again, like, because we don't see the full contract, it's cut off. If it doesn't say that for ban, it obviously should say that for ban, and I would agree that doesn't make any sense. But
Shad, philosophically, is the Daily Wire bending over for big tech censorship?
I feel that it's certainly reinforcing it. Like, one of the things you would want out of an agreement like this is protection against it. Okay, security against it. That they would have your back if you get banned. But this is reinforcing it after the fact, which makes it so much worse.
Right. Because that's what most people are upset about. The detail. We're getting bogged down in the details of whether or not this was a good deal.
I know.
I don't think it was.
Want to talk about
I don't think it was a good deal. I don't.
That's what I want.
I don't know that anybody.
I love contracts. Look. Listen. Here's my interpretation. Right?
No, let's stop. We don't care. We don't care about your
Adam, I'm just going to use an analogy, and it's gonna wrap.
Okay, this better be good.
All right. So Steven Crowder thought he was Darth Vader, negotiating his path to the Empire. It turns out Steven Crowder is Lando, according to Shad, because he thinks that the Daily Wire came in like Darth Vader and was like, "I've altered the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further."
Right. Okay.
There you go.
Good analogy.
I like analogies. When did Daily Wire say we've altered the deal and they weren't like that's a false thing. They just came in with a crappy deal. They didn't like suck her in with
why are we arguing? Because we all agree they came in with a crappy deal. The question that everybody has is whether or not they're basically hanging out with Susan Wojcicki and doing her bidding surreptitiously. That's true. That's the accusation that Steven Crowder has made. That's the accusation everybody cares about. That's the accusation that's going to lose Daily Wire half of their subscribers. I mean, that's a devastating accusation.
Well, what I said at the beginning of the stream probably before either of you heard, was I said I didn't. It's funny. I said I didn't want to really fixate on the specific terms of the contract.
Who cares?
Which I know we spent the last 2 hours talking about.
But I do care. I care a lot about that.
I like the I know,
and it's fine. I'm not throwing shade.
Look,
I'm not throwing shade. Okay, but what I'm saying is, what's interesting to me.
Sitch? I thought we were friends.
I know. What's interesting to me is not so much whether the contract's bad, because I think we all agree the contract's not great. What's interesting to me is the way in which Crowder attacked this, I thought was really bad. And that's what I want to talk about.
Right. So hey, Shad, do you have an opinion on that? Yeah.
It honestly depends on your interpretation of how bad that contract is.
Okay.
I find that I find that terms agreement apocalyptically bad. Like it is so exploitative and predatory, right? That if you feel it's that bad, then I see more justification for the reaction. If you think it's just a little bad, then you wouldn't feel it's justified to go nuclear like Crowder's going.
I think the Daily Wire, like, because people are like, are they a shill for big tech? I think the Daily Wire is very much like pragmatic in that they understand that like this is how you reach audience, this is how you build a brand. So they're willing to do what all of us do in the political space, which is work on these platforms, companies that we don't like, in order to get our message
Not
out
us.
there.
Fuck the man.
Yeah. Okay.
Same, Adam. But
to be clear, a lot of people will say that, and then they'll say, and Steven Crowder's taking a more principled stance.
Right.
No, he's not. Steven Crowder also makes the same risk calculations on his own show. Just because they worked out poorly for him in the past doesn't make it not so. He does push the line, though. That's the thing, because, like I said, he is always the guy that is pushing the line. Like he was,
and I think that's a complete invalid argument, because he could be banned for things that he isn't even, against terms of service for. You can't predict those things.
So he's not pushing the line.
He is Shad. You got to admit he's pushing the line. I think
he is.
Yeah, of course.
Heaven's sake! At this point, anyone who even says the word retard is pushing the line. At this point.
Oh my God! I can't be.
Sitch, kick him. Sitch, kick him to save the stream.
Are we allowed to say retard still?
I don't know.
Related to what you said, Shad. In terms of my position was before you guys came on, was that the way in which Crowder talks about this. My two contentions here was, number one, he was throwing a lot of stray bullets and a lot of stray fire at everyone. Because in his first video especially, he doesn't say, there's this one organization and they're giving me a bad deal and I think it's bad. He doesn't say that. He says, oh, this is the standard. This is more common than not. Big con. He's sort of like throwing all conservative media outlets under the bus and acting like they're all engaged in this behavior.
And it sounds like Shad is saying they are.
Well, hang on. It's interesting because I actually want to rewatch his video, because people have been saying it was a direct attack against the Daily Wire, but you even yourself are picking up there. It actually seemed a more broad attack against, a lot of that's the thing. Contracts against multiple conservative outlets. I was thinking he must be talking about a number of things. Is it Fox and could be
exactly? You don't know
collectively. Crowder notoriously doesn't like Fox because he was a contributor for them. But they wouldn't have offered him a new deal.
Right. But this is the thing. Like, if you know all the inside scoop and all the inside information, which I don't know any of this stuff, like you did, Sean, you watch this first video where he's making broad accusations. You don't know who he's talking about. You're kind of like, was he talking about the entire conservative media apparatus?
Well, he does try to do that where he tries to broaden it out. But it's like pretty clear if you have and I've never received an offer from the Daily Wire, but when Crowder says 4 to 5 in video reads.
Yeah, that was like it sounded that was Daily Wire.
They don't do that on Fox, right?
I understand that, but
when you know it's not the Blaze, because he just left the Blaze, and it's not Fox because the video reads. You don't even have to know about Crowder's history that it can't be Fox. Then it literally leaves you with the Daily Wire.
Fox was a very high probability.
It's a zero probability.
Fox was one of them. And if anything, the thing that makes you hone in on the Daily Wire just makes you think Daily Wire is a very likely one included in this group that he seems to be trying to call out.
Right. Well, again, so regardless of whether because I agree, if you know enough information, if you're aware enough in the video, you can kind of suss out who he's talking about. But that's not really my point, is if you can suss it out. My point is, why is Crowder framing this like it's the entire
because
landscape.
Crowder
If he has a very
is selling
specific problem.
Crowder is selling Mug Club subscriptions.
That's my point, but that's why I think that what he's doing here is wrong, and this is why, to me, the way he's framing this is very cynical. He could have just said the Daily Wire off the get-go, or he could have said there's one company that's doing this and I think this is wrong, but he didn't. And he did it for exactly that reason, Sean, because it's a lot more galvanizing and polarizing. It gets a lot more emotions and people upset if he says there's this entire conspiracy against you that I'm going to unveil and talk about and fight back against. And I think that's not the right way.
Let Shad respond.
Sure.
I actually find this a very interesting point because that interpretation, I honestly can't refute. I think there is valid evidence.
I win! No, I'm just kidding.
No. My other point is, though, I feel there's as much valid evidence for a charitable interpretation, and I can't go either way. And so I've been attacking the contract, the terms agreement, how crappy that is. The Daily Wire's responses with Jeremy and Ben have been really bad to the point of actually being manipulative and dishonest. Like some of the crap that Ben tries to say to summarize the terms agreement is just flat out wrong. It was a really bad video. Okay. But when I look at the incentive, exactly. When we look at the incentive, why he's doing it, I can't say. And if it turns out, and I get multiple different kind of things raising up in my mind that can push me in either direction, because I actually don't think it's wrong to try and find support when you're fighting for a cause. Daily Wire does it all the time, okay? Right. They love to monetize their fight for conservative stuff and everything like that, and trying to say that's so cynical that Stephen's wanting to get support in fighting for this, crappy terms sheet and crappy practices that are happening in the conservative movement. Just to try and say, well, it's all cynical because it's also trying to get support and money out of it. Well, then we should be as critical of the Daily Wire for the same standard. It depends if he has conflated it beyond, he's exaggerated things to a truly unreasonable point in trying to make out the bad guys as the bad guys and then garnering up more support. And I'm watching very closely. The thing that I'm interested to see, that I want to see now, is one of Steven Crowder's employment contracts with his people.
Well, good luck, because Steven NDAs the hell out of them. But
no, not everyone. Okay. It's been open that people might take it as confirmation, but we haven't heard confirmation that there's an NDA. Either was it from Steven or Not Gay Jared about him. But I know people who've worked with Steven that are not under NDAs.
Okay. I will say, because I'm not going to stay on for very much longer. I'll probably sign off to this. But my overall take is, and I actually thought I didn't care about Ben Shapiro's thing. People keep bringing up Shapiro. I could care less about Uncle Benji over there. I think that Boring's video is actually pretty solid because he addressed specific points in Crowder's video. And Crowder's follow-up, where he plays the tape, he doesn't address any specific point about any inaccuracy in his original video. So I would...
Can I jump on this?
Hold on, So I would say, there's a reason why Crowder told you the fines in his original video, but didn't tell you the compensation, which, to me is dishonest, because how can I judge the fines without knowing the compensation? There's a reason why he misread certain excerpts, even if we give him that benefit of the doubt. And all those misreadings were in his favor. And there's a reason why that all of his sanctimonious nonsense ends up with you signing up to his subscription service and joining his network and giving him money.
Well, at the moment, there's no giving him money.
It's a free sign up.
The infrastructure. That's just a free sign up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's the email. But again, he's going to launch his Mug Club.
Presumably.
I mean, isn't that a disingenuous framing what you just did?
Mug Club forever.
Hang on. Technically, he hasn't asked for a single cent from anyone. You're
join us and we're going to build
a mailing list. No, come on.
Join us and we're going to build it.
He's got you there, Sean.
And we're going to build it. Are you telling me that right now, Crowder's
got you there, Sean?
No, money? You just exaggerated something almost to the same point that you seem to be criticizing Crowder for, where you've actually misrepresented the words he has said, okay, to suit the viewpoint that you're trying to put to, and you've exaggerated. You've actually framed him doing something that he did not do, which was honestly dishonest, right? Okay, and
Honestly.
that seems to be the same.
Well, no, I mean, it's systemic
for me, I feel it.
dishonesty,
I'm
but-
speaking honestly.
Crowder's like, I'm going to build a
and-
competing
oh,
network.
come
What are
on,
you
come on.
talking about?
You didn't ask anyone. for
Did
money
he
yet.
say that? I mean, I don't.
Yes.
He
No,
did
he-
say, Crowder did say that he doesn't know if he doesn't get enough people behind this. He did say, why am I doing this anymore?
Right,
So
he's
No,
he's
got-
that he's gonna quit YouTube. Okay.
He's taking
Right,
the
and then in the
Hawaiian
second
Island
video,
option.
and then the
But-
second
but-
video, he did say that he wants people to field him offers, and he's going to try to set something up. So he has said he's going to try to do something. He hasn't asked for money yet, but he has said he's doing
exactly. That's my point. He hasn't asked for money, and just to say that he's out there, come give me money so I can fight for the good cause, which seemed to be very.
Well, so you're gonna join. You're gonna join Mud Club.
something. That's
on.
my
If you're-
interpretation of what
Sean-
Steven is
Sean,
doing as well. So
If you were holding your own self to the same standard of criticism you're holding to Crowder, you never would have done that because you've been calling out Crowder on the way he has worded and represented things.
I don't think they're comparable, honestly.
Yeah, you could join.
I
You
don't
could
know.
join Mud Club. What are you talking about? You're able to join.
Well,
Mud Club.
Sean is not
Hang on.
here burning down the entire conservative movement, so
That's
we got to
true.
give him.
I did
come
it.
on, I hold people to the same standard.
Well,
right?
not yet, but
because he doesn't have Mud
he's-
Club at the moment, does he? I thought that infrastructure
It's-
wasn't.
I'm-
Well, he just
on
has
it-
an email list. He doesn't
I'm on
have
his
money.
website. It says join now on his regular website.
Well, what is the state of Mud Club now? Because that's a question that I had. The Blaze controlled it when he was working for the Blaze, but did the Blaze sell him Mud Club like the Young Turks sold Jimmy his
like
channel?
the brand name.
Well, I don't know. I have no idea. Yeah.
Okay. It's so I clicked it. It's an email list. So he might have to launch something else, like in terms of his financial.
So all the people on Mud Club are going to be turned loose from the Blaze. I mean, that doesn't.
No,
sound
Well,
like
they're
the
all-
Blaze. No, the Blaze says they can't separate them, so he would have to get them to re-sign up.
right.
That's what Mud Club Forever is, isn't it? The re-sign up.
Is that launched yet, though?
Well,
I
the
don't-
email part. I don't know
Oh,
if he's
talk
actually gaining
about-
money from it. Yet.
Talk
I'm
about
not
a
sure.
confusing
And look,
product. So
yeah.
now there's
what a
like the Mud
confusing
Club and Mud Club Forever,
If
and
I
the
had
Mud
to
Club
guess,
is the
I would
Blaze,
guess
and
That since he was shopping for offers, he's not being paid yet
Right.
through
Okay.
Mud Club Forever. I
So
would
there's no.
guess.
This is like the Apple. This is like the Apple Watch when they first marketed it. I don't know what it is. I'm
Yeah.
so confused.
yeah, it's totally confusing.
Right.
So I don't necessarily know. This is why my idea that this is all just. I mean, he expected to be working for the Daily Wire, and this would be a non-issue, but that didn't happen. As soon as the Daily Wire pulled out, it was. I feel like Steven is scrambling a bit here. So.
Yeah, I mean, look, I hope he does go independent. I wish he did go independent. I think he would do great for himself. Like, honestly, but like, after seeing all of this, I can't ignore the blatantly untrue statements in his video. And I can't pretend like that his like sanctimonious acting is like real genuine emotion.
You're just
Mhm.
okay.
So I want to watch your video, and because if he has said blatantly untrue things, I'm gonna full on,
Right.
say that that's also untrue and everything. But I feel that there were blatantly untrue things that Ben has said, and also Jeremy has said.
They
as
might
well.
Well, I see. Like I said, I didn't even cover the Ben Shapiro video because I don't care. He wasn't. He works at the Daily Wire in terms of this component. Like he's not involved in negotiations.
Hang on, he's
He is one of the
basically
founders.
He's the biggest counter voice in this whole debate now. The loudest and with the
Well,
largest.
no,
platform.
no,
what he says
Candace
is
Owens
That's not
was
true.
the
Sean is the
loudest.
biggest counter
No,
voice.
Sean is the biggest.
Candace Owens was the loudest counter
Only because
voice.
of Tim Pool. No, but
Yeah.
That
from
is true.
actually
Well, yeah, but-
only from the actual stuff coming out of the Daily Wire, Ben now is the largest voice in terms of how people are going to get their perception of how this, debate, this disagreement is framed. From the Daily Wire is going to be from Ben Shapiro's
Right,
video,
but they
and
can
he
both be
said
wrong.
Yeah, but
some
they should
flat
watch.
out dog crap things.
They should watch Jeremy Boring's video where he actually reads the contract and then read the contract. Like that's what they should do.
I don't know, because there's a lot of people who actually are unaware of contractual language. And one of the biggest responses to my video covering was like, you did point out things that I never would have picked up on. There is such crap in that contract. And the fact that Jeremy is trying to brush over. Well, thank you. You
Boring.
just committed to watching 3 hours. You better bloody do it. I'm going to hold you.
Boring said the thing though
Well, 4.5
that
really.
Boring said the thing that all producers say about talent when they're warning other producers not to hire them, though, that they're not a team player. They say that all the time.
And he said,
that's
I'm going to
the
make
kiss
you.
of death.
He said, "I'm gonna make you a big star too," and asked Crowder to sit on the couch.
Look! Anyone who's
that was a joke, by the way. Like,
we couldn't tell.
Don't sue me. Don't sue me, Jeremy Boring.
Are you worried Boring is going to sue you? I don't think.
Yeah, his last name is Boring. He loves the boring aspects of litigation.
Sean, I'm only bringing this up because you keep talking about like Boring's video was completely innocuous, and it wasn't. It was like I watched that video and I was like, oh man, like Steven's never working again. He's a free agent for life now. And if he hasn't, if he doesn't have any experience,
I think he was a free agent for life after the first video, honestly. But
when Steven leaked the phone call, that's really what killed him, because somebody would have hired him. But now he's the guy who secretly records your conversations.
Hang on, wait. Recording business conversations.
It wasn't a business conversation.
Yeah, I'll like after that first offer, that first thing. People have different views on it, but it was so predatory and exploitative. It's business going here on in, okay? Especially
you're not hold on, Shad. You're not defending the phone call or recording the call, are you? Shad, don't do it.
Well, I would record business calls if it's about stuff that could end up being so predatory like that. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so how about this? Like, you finish negotiating your contract for months, then you call your friend of 10 years, you prompt the call after negotiations are over.
Yeah, the call seems like a setup.
Ask him about his kids and Christmas after you've already bought the website domain, stopbigcon.com, and you're secretly recording it. Because that's the phone call. It could be
interpreted the other way, where you're saying it took so long. Steven said it took him ages to be able to decide to pull the trigger on this, and that it sounded like he was very conflicted about it. The fact that it shows that it happened a while ago just falls in line with the
I would love
that he was doing.
I would love if Steven Crowder, love it to the nth degree, if Steven Crowder recorded their actual business negotiations, so
they
we can find out
stream it,
so we can find out exactly what Steven was advocating for, was actually negotiating for. Not a month later when the deal is completely falling apart, where he's like, "Hey Jeremy, how's your kids?" And Jeremy's like, "How was Christmas, Steven?" And then he's like, "Oh, let me act super sanctimonious and try to get you to say something so that I can clip it from a larger conversation and put it on my show." On top of that, he didn't even give the recording to anybody. He said he transcribed the recording and gave it to other people. So, like, come on, release the recording.
Yes,
not Tim.
I actually think the best way to do it is to release the whole recording, but you don't want private stuff about the family thing. Is the only to me the only information that we have that it was talking about family heaps and everything is from Jeremy, right? I can't take that as reliable at the moment.
No, Steven said that. That's why he said he didn't release the whole recording.
Yeah, okay,
he said there's personal stuff like family and all of that we discussed in there.
Yeah. You can't, Shad. There's no way you can call it fair that he knows that the call is being recorded, and the other party assumes that it's private. That is a completely unfair situation. Listen, you say things when you're talking to people privately differently than you say things when you know you're being recorded, okay? Steven Crowder, there's no chance Steven Crowder is going to say anything wrong. I'm going to give you a because he knows he's recording this.
I talk to creators behind the scenes all the time, and like, you know,
Sean just uses the N-word.
I was gonna say that they drop the N-word all the time, and I record all of those conversations because I'm a bad person, just like Steven Crowder. But the thing is, I know if I released it, that would also look badly on me. So that's why I just keep them in default in case somebody hacks into my computer.
Exactly. You know, there are conditions in which you might need those receipts.
Yes, but you look, it's all theater. It's all theater once you know you are recording the person Adam, and they don't know they're being recorded.
Yeah, going back to what I say, giving you a bone, right? Mm-hmm. When it's between friends and there's trust that what is being said is in private, I actually agree, okay?
Yeah,
it's the whole friends thing.
Okay, fine.
It's the whole friends thing, okay? If I got given this terms agreement and it's such exploitative bullcrap, okay? I could not think that would possibly come from a friend. And this is someone who actually wants to take advantage of me if they could get away with it. And so my defenses would be through the roof. Okay.
But wait.
So you take advantage of them.
Let me square this
before they get you.
Right. So
hang on.
Even if it was
with a terms agreement like that, that is like someone who could be recording me in actual private friendly conversations without my knowing, because if they're willing to do this, I would think they'd be more than willing to. Hang on. Wait.
Crowder recorded it. Hold on. Crowder recorded it. Crowder
let
recorded
him finish.
it.
Let him finish.
No. Crowder recorded it because Jeremy could have recorded it. That's the worst argument ever.
Shut up. You know what I'm saying here.
Why not?
You're dealing with a very combative person who is possibly taking advantage of you, right? Do you think
then why not just start the call saying you're recording the call?
When's the line? Where's the line? We're okay with Project.
Wait. Well, okay, I can solve all of this. Okay. So it doesn't matter if it's friends or say it's just business. Say they have no friendship whatsoever. If Crowder recorded the call with the idea like, oh, I want to make sure that if they offer something or explain something about the contract to me in private, and then I talk about it publicly, that they don't contradict. If that was the only reason for listening to if that was the only reason for recording the phone call and then playing bits of the phone call, you could say, okay, maybe it's not the greatest to record the phone call, but at least what he's doing seems like it makes sense. But that's not really what Crowder did. What Crowder did was he recorded the phone call. He started to ask what appears to be leading questions that he was trying to extract some kind of clippable moment for. And then he plays these clips without context, which, by the way, when we watch the second video on stream, if we ever get to it, every time Crowder sets up the clip, he says something, and then that's not what the clip says.
Yes. And the clips aren't even that bad for Boring, so he didn't even get anything of super value. But also the negotiations had ended. Even Crowder said that the negotiations had ended months ago. So if Crowder were recorded his business calls, I hope he does, and I hope the Daily Wire did too, because I want to hear.
Stop recording people. That's bad news. I can't believe you're admitting this.
Hang on, guys. Are you recording this? Is this going out live and being recorded?
Don't use the bathroom in my house. But like if Crowder would have, I would love to hear Crowder counter negotiate with them, or his agent counter negotiate with them, because we all know he asked for more money. 100%. Yeah. And by the way, I don't begrudge him for that, but like his audience people are like, oh, he definitely didn't. It's like, shut up, shut your face. He asked for more money, and you goddamn know it.
Look, and I was saying, like, if he records the call just so he can listen to it and remember what he says, that's still kind of a gray area, but releasing the call at all is completely wrong. Yeah.
Now it sounds like you're switching your thing, because before it was saying you never record under any circumstances.
Well, no, I don't. I still think. Look,
I've moved Adam a little bit on.
I still think recording under any circumstances is bad, but I do understand. If you're going to go into a contentious conversation and you want to remember what you said and what they said, so you're not getting anything wrong.
Okay,
but
President Nixon.
So that's where I'm at already. So I'm at, that's my whole point about recording business conversations for potential. If you need receipts, if you need to reference everything, because.
But I think there was more going on here.
But this was a personal conversation after Christmas, after the negotiation.
And
if you recorded the business call. If you recorded the business call,
we need to listen to the whole thing to really know that. Okay?
Look, we
don't know. Like, this is me being, I feel, too charitable, but because there's a possibility of this, it needs to be acknowledged. We don't know if Stephen just said, "Hey, Jeremy, I'm calling up because I need to talk to you about this terms agreement you sent me." And then Jerry's like, "Yeah, but hey, how is your family? How is all this and that?" And look, again, too charitable, but like, we need to know the whole context. Just say that
here's the problem.
From get-go, you don't know the context to justify that either.
Hey, I'm calling you up to get you to say something stupid that I could clip online for my YouTube channel.
Here's the fundamental problem, and I'll stay for your response, but I do want to head out after this. But here's the fundamental problem with like saying that this is not after the negotiations. We know this call happened last week. It was like January 7th, January 9th, right? So either Crowder, who got this offer in October 5th, like was still negotiating up until January, which is a month after he bought the Stop Big Con website, or the negotiations ended with Daily Wire specifically.
He registered the Stop Big Con after
in December.
Yeah, so it's in Ben's video.
I agree with you. But the phone call that he made with Jeremy Boring is from January 9th. So like, he registered the domain after he stopped negotiations, right? So that was December 12th. So negotiations had to stop before December 12th. The phone call with Jeremy Boring is January 9th.
Yeah, a month later.
So
So how is it a business call if the business deal is already over? Unless Crowder was literally negotiating up until a week before he dropped this video.
So it sounded like he called him up to re-emphasize and go through why he thought it was a crappy thing. Okay. And like to say that, the negotiations ended, so how on earth could he possibly talk with Jeremy about, the terms agreement? Well, of course, like Jeremy obviously didn't think anything was suspect in the fact that he was calling up to talk about the terms agreement. Okay. I'm failing to see the big own that people are trying to say.
I don't think him talking candidly about this negotiation that went south before is fine, but I'm saying the business negotiation was over.
Yeah, but now he's
like, this was Jeremy a personal call, and then he asked him about it.
No, it sounded like he was calling him up to actually reinforce the reasons why it was a crappy thing, and to say that if this is the type of terms agreement you're giving to other creators, that was crappy, and he was trying to say that there was a better way to do it.
But this isn't a business call; it's still under the guise of a personal call.
Shad, I thought you were already. Shad, I thought you were already in agreement that the call was a setup as a payback for the bad contract offer, and you were okay with that because the contract offer was so bad.
The contract offer was bad, right? To me, it feels like this is a contingency.
Right.
That if anyone was going to question the fact that Daily Wire actually felt the terms agreement was perfectly fine and good,
we all agree. We all agree on that, but we're arguing over whether or not you can go like William Wallace on this contract.
Oh yeah, it feels like the whole purpose of it, and this is my interpretation at the moment. If further future evidence changes that, I'll absolutely change my view, right? But it feels like the purpose of the call was to get Jeremy Boring on record saying that he felt that they were doing nothing wrong with the way that they were conducting business.
Well, I felt like it was to get him to say...
I don't think that was... I think Crowder's purpose was to make it seem like
to get a clip.
They don't care about... Yeah, to get a clip.
They don't care about the little guy.
Specifically, making it seem like... Not they don't care about the little guy, but that they don't care about the conservative movement, because that is what Crowder's narrative has been throughout this entire fiasco.
Yeah, they don't have your best interests at heart. Big con, the biggest con of all. Or the biggest con going right now. Like,
he didn't really get that clip.
Yeah,
well, he got them saying that they're happy for people to work as wage slaves until they earn a higher kind of position or revenue.
I've already went through that, but you guys can talk about it. I do want to head out, but
Take care,
I
Sean.
specifically addressed that wage slave thing. Thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me yell at your chat, people.
Hey, Sean, before you leave, first time I met you, right? I know we can get heated and stuff like that, and I don't hold anything against anyone if I have like disagreements about crap like this. Okay?
Yeah. Look. I said it like clearly in my video in the beginning and in the end. Like, good people can disagree on this. Not just because like I know people that are friendly with Crowder that are totally on the other side of this issue. And like, I think their friendship influences it, but I also know good people that don't know either, that feel like it's more 50-50 or they're more on Crowder's side and all of that. So don't hate people because they disagree with you, unless they're in the chat and they dare tweet something at me that I've already addressed, then I hate you. But yeah, overall, like, I think it's fine to get along, even if we disagree on this.
Agree.
Unless you're Adam. If you're Adam and you disagree with me, I hate you too.
Yeah,
nice.
Of course.
Bye, guys.
Mortal enemies.
Thanks
Take care,
for coming
man.
on, Sean.
Hi, you just listened to a clip from the Sitch and Adams show. If you like what you heard, you can listen to our live show right here on this channel on Sunday, starting at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. And if you want, you can super chat us. We read $20 and up super chats on the show and then do a follow-up stream on the following Tuesday where we read the rest of the unread super chats and interact with fans of the show. Subscribe to this channel right here to listen to the live show or to listen to more of our awesome clips.